Alright, so I want to go ahead and start this next video going over the symbols that you will use or see a lot in a logic class. This particular horseshoe symbol represents if then. So it means that if whatever's on the left hand side happens to be true, then whatever's on the right hand side must absolutely follow. Alright, the ampersand, so this symbol here is just the same thing it means. Standard in English is and, so same thing there. So if A, whatever's on the left hand side, happens to be true, then whatever's on the right hand side must also be true. Just a quick point about this. I used the incorrect terminology and said if then. What I should have said was the element on the left hand side is true and the element on the right hand side is true. Not if one is true, then the other is true, but that it's the conjunction of both of them together being true. Then you have or, so this V, lowercase v here, or a wedge sometimes it's called, represents or, and we'll get into the finicky details of that later, but basically it's an inclusive or, not an exclusive. So that would just be like saying if you had the thing on the left hand side and then the thing on the right hand side, in order for it to be inclusive, that means if both of them are true, then it still works. It still includes that. It doesn't exclude that. And then lastly, this is another symbol that means not. So it's a negation. And it's only ever applied really to one entire thing. It's not an operator in the sense that these here, there's something on the left-hand side, something on the right-hand side. The negation is simply the fact that whatever follows it is made the opposite. So let's go ahead and look at how that would be represented here. So here we have A implies, and that's sometimes how you read this as well. This horseshoe symbol can be implies. So if A happens to be true, then B also happens to be true. So what that would mean is that whatever A is, if it happens, then absolutely B has to happen. And if B doesn't happen, then that makes this whole thing contradictory. So it would break down at that point. If I had A absolutely happens and then B did not happen, then this whole sentence here of these two combined things would end up being false. Here I've got A and B, so two things joined together. So that would be like saying something happens, whatever A is, and something else also happens. Both of those things get put together. So if either one of them happens to be false, this whole thing breaks down. Here I've got A or B. So if A happens, but B does not happen, that satisfies or, because at least one of them happened. If both of them happen, again, since this is inclusive, if both of them happen, then this is okay. If neither of them happen, that's the one case where this breaks down. So if A is not true and then B is also not true, then the whole thing breaks down. And then here we have not A. So whatever A is, the opposite. So this would be like saying, so let's say A is Anne goes swimming. The opposite, the negative of this sentence is Anne does not go swimming. Or you could call that it is not the case that Anne goes swimming. Right? So it just negates the whole thing. Whatever A is, it just says it's not that particular case, that particular circumstance. All right, let's go ahead and look at then one last operation here. So this is known as the if and only if statement. You can think of this like a modern day, mathematical equal sign. This here, right? It says that whatever happens on the left-hand side, so in this case A, whatever happens on the left-hand side, if that's true, then whatever happens on the right-hand side must also be true. So the way this breaks down is if either one of them is false, but the other one is true, then the whole thing breaks down. Or, for example, like if they're both false, well, then that's okay. Because what this would be saying is that, well, since whatever this is, right, it depends on this one, and whatever this is depends on the other one. So, right, so it's like saying A if and only if B, and then, or sorry, A if A then B, if B then A. So the if and only if is going both ways. And that's an important thing to notice because we'll get into converses, inverses, and contrapositives later, but that's going to be an important delineation to make. This is kind of like an equal sign. It's saying that whatever A is, if A is true, B has to be true, or else this breaks down. If A is false, B has to be false, or else this breaks down.